The state calls Mrs. Sadia Baxter.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to enter into this case is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, ma'am, go ahead and state your full name, spell your first and last name for the court reporter, please.
Sadia Baxter, S-A-D-I-A, last name B-A-X-T-E-R.
Mr. Williams, you may inquire.
Mrs. Baxter, it's my understanding that you've prepared a written statement that you'd like to read to the court.
Yes, sir.
May she proceed, Your Honor?
You may.
Thank you, Your Honor, for giving me the opportunity to speak. Today, I sit here as a representation of my late husband, Matthew Baxter, our Sergeant Sam Howard. I sit here as a representation of thousands of law enforcement officers across this nation. Most importantly, I sit here as a mother to my beautiful girls, Soraya, Zara, Sophia, and a stepmother to Matthew's daughter, Isabella. Almost 2 years ago, I sat here telling you and the jury that stood before us about Matthew Baxter and who he was as a person. Although I will briefly touch on who Matthew was, I will mainly focus on speaking how much our lives as a family has been affected by the murder of our loved one. Matthew was raised in Baltimore, Maryland, and West Virginia. Matthew had a difficult childhood and was extremely unstable. Matthew was raised by a single mother and different family members throughout his youth. He did not know who his father was or even know his father's name. Even though Matthew had an unstable childhood, he decided to do something positive with his life. Matthew moved to Orlando, Florida, joining the police academy and becoming a police officer. Matthew loved working as a patrol officer because he felt he was making a difference in a community similar to the one he grew up in. He interacted with young males who did not have a father and who would mentor them and even play basketball with them in efforts to humanize the badge. He was proud to be able to protect this community. Matthew and I would have many late-night conversations about truly making a difference in our community by protecting and serving. The profession was not just a job to us, but it was our calling. Matthew was much more than a young man in uniform. Matthew was determined to be the best father to our children, a father he never had. At the time Matthew's death, he was only 26 years old. Our daughters were 7, 1, and our youngest was only 7 months old when he was killed. I often reflect on those ages, how a young man who was just learning about life was taken so early. It pains me to think about our babies who barely got to know their daddy. I'm upset. Everett Miller had no right to take our loved ones away from us, but he did, and he has showed no remorse. I cannot express in words how traumatic this tragedy has been for my girls since their father was murdered. Their innocence has been taken from them. Soraya, now 11, my stepdaughter Isabella, now 6, my daughter Zara, now 5, and my daughter Sophia, now 4. 2 of our daughters struggle to sleep. I assume that they're scared because of monsters. I reassure them that monsters are not real. One of my daughters responded that she is not scared of monsters. She's scared of bad guys like the guy who killed her daddy. Normal 4- and 5-year-old children think about innocent things, like playing with dolls and having fun, where my girls often think about death and grief their loss. Aside from their fears, they cannot help but to dream what it would be like to have their father alive. Zara begs me to bring her daddy back from heaven. As a mother, seeing the pain in their day-to-day lives is heart-wrenching. Just last week, I was helping Zara do her first homework assignment in kindergarten. Sophia was begging me to help her, but I was unable to since I was helping Zara. Sophia cried in her room, and when I asked her why she was crying, she said, "I wish my daddy Matthew was alive so you could help Zara with homework and daddy could help me." Unfortunately, this is only one example of many I've experienced over the past 4 years from my girls wanting their daddy back. My goal every single day is to raise my girls to my best ability without their daddy. Before Matthew was killed, our girls were never in daycare. Matthew worked nights and I worked days as a detective. We flip-flopped watching our children. The girls started daycare shortly after Matthew was killed, so I continued to work in law enforcement. I was paying $607 a week in daycare, an expense that I did not have prior. My take-home salary at my employer was not much more than that one expense. Plus, I had to hire a babysitter to accommodate my new life without Matthew. With my girls so young, they were getting anxious about me going into work and getting killed like their daddy. Those are some of the reasons I had to sacrifice my full-time career as a special agent and become a reserve special agent, a position I would have never had to do if Matthew was still alive. I hope to go back to full-time as a law enforcement officer once my daughters get older. But unfortunately, after this tragedy, our lives cannot just go back to what it was before. This murder did not just affect us in one way, but in several. I wish Everett Miller thought about his actions and how it would affect so many lives. I can flash back to the past 4 years and recount all the challenges I had to face with our girls, all the milestones my girls experienced without their daddy. First words, first steps, first day of school, bedtime stories, tucking them into bed, trick-or-treating, losing their first tooth, opening gifts on Christmas morning, celebrating the New Year's, watching their extracurricular activities, kissing scraped knees, long walks with the dogs around the neighborhood, meals shared, talking about their day. I also think about the memories that the girls will have in the milestones that the girls will have in the future, where they will want their daddy. Birthdays, elementary school, middle school, high school, learning to drive a car, college, a father's embrace for their first heartbreak, a random text message from their daddy filled with encouragement and wisdom. Their daddy will not be able to walk them down the aisle on their wedding day or share a father-daughter dance on that special day. They will want their daddy there to meet our grandchildren, but he will not be there for any of those life milestones. As a father, Everett Miller should know how valuable a father is to a child's life. As I sat in trial for many weeks 2 years ago, I saw Everett Miller's father quietly come and support his son, as a father should. Even Everett Miller still needs his father, but he felt the need to take my daughter's daddy away from them. It is unacceptable. It is not okay to kill. It is not okay to kill our law enforcement officers, a fear all my brothers and sisters in blue must face, a crime so heinous that cannot be overlooked. One of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life is to forgive someone who has not apologized, who is not sorry for their actions. As a mother, I refuse and I will not raise my girls to harbor hate in their hearts. Hate is what got us here today. Hate towards our law enforcement officers is why Matt and Sam were killed. My children will be raised to forgive and to love one another. I sit here today and I declare that I, Sadia Baxter, forgives Everett Miller for the murder of Matthew Baxter. And I will raise my daughters to my best ability to forgive Everett Miller for the murder of their daddy. I'm not saying that I'm okay with the actions done. I am saying that I will not let unforgiveness take a hold of our hearts and minds. Forgive not because what was done to Sam and Matt is acceptable, but forgive because if we do not forgive, we make those who hurt us the center of our lives, and it only hurts us. We miss out on joy and peace, and I will not raise my girls to carry hate. or unforgiveness in their hearts. My girls often cry. They are angry. They struggle to sleep in fear that a bad guy will come into our home. It is my job as a single mom to reassure them that they are safe. My daughters ask me why their daddy was killed, and this is a question only Everett Miller can answer. Why? I asked Sophia, my 4-year-old, if she would like to say something today and how she felt, and she said, I feel sad. I miss my daddy. I asked Zara, my 5-year-old, if she wanted to say anything to Everett Miller, and her response was, don't do that ever again to other polices. I talked to Zara about forgiveness, and I asked her what she felt. She responded, not happy, and proceeded saying, you can't do that. We are going to forgive you, but don't do it again. Our love in our hearts, and you cannot kill other polices. I'm mad. I asked Soraya if she wanted to say anything. Tears filled her eyes. She is upset. She is mad that this happened. Soraya's emotions run much deeper than the question asked. Soraya is a big sister in the family, and she's fully aware of the struggles that we face daily. After Matthew passed, she grew up beyond her years, constantly worried about her sisters and even worrying about me. Although I'm extremely proud of her, I wish she could enjoy her youth, carefree. She holds in her emotions in front of her little sisters to be strong for them, but I can see the pain behind her eyes. She even feels guilty for having the most memories with Matthew in comparison to her little sisters. But I'm glad she will be able to share with her little sisters how much their daddy loved them. I'd like to share some of Matthew's thoughts. He wrote in a journal. He wrote, I would like to be remembered for good deeds, for loving and helping others. One who loved his beautiful wife, children, and Jesus. He also wrote, note to self, as you cross this journey, know that you're not alone. For the one who has given you breath and life, in addition to love, is with you. Your life will never be the same, because the glory of God and the purpose of God is greater than anyone's ambition. Always remember, purpose is greater than pleasure. Matthew sent me a text about forgiveness during trying times in our marriage. He sent, the Apostle Paul gave us a staggering challenge in the area of forgiveness. He wrote, bear with each other and forgive whatever grievances you may have against one another. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. Colossians 3:13. The text message continued. When forgiveness is necessary, don't wait too long. We must begin to forgive because without forgiving, we choke off our own joy. We kill our own soul. People carrying hate and resentment can invest themselves so deeply in that resentment, they gradually define themselves in terms of it. I feel like Matthew's text message was preparing me for today. I wish I could say that our challenges would be gone after trial is over. They will not, but I can say that we will continue to heal, we'll continue to love, and we will continue to forgive. I have peace with the sentencing outcome Your Honor finds fit for Everett Miller. I trust our criminal justice system and know that justice will be served. After sentencing, I will have peace to close this chapter and continue to focus on raising amazing little girls. Girls who will one day become women. Women who will love, who will forgive, and who will continue to honor God. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.